Good morning and how are you? Great to see you again. Today we are making an awesome wine that I love to make. I've been messing around with these flavours for the past few years and today we are making beetroot and chili wine. The flavours of these two ingredients, the beetroot and the chili pepper, work so well together in a wine glass. They are a perfect pairing to have in a winter glass tipple. They are divine. So let's get into the recipe. For this recipe we need about 1.5 kilos of beetroot. Homegrown or from the shop, but just don't use the pickled variety. That would kill the yeast straight away and not be any good for your wine. So fresh beetroot is what you need, about 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos worth. The first thing we need to do with the beetroot is top and tail it, remove the stalks, remove the tail, and then give them a really good scrub. Get any of the remaining dirt off and away. So I'll be back in a jiffy once I have scrubbed my rhubarb. Once you've scrubbed your beetroot and topped and tailed them, you want to cut them into small little chunks. The size doesn't really matter, but the bigger the surface area of the beetroot, the more juice and flavour you'll extract into your wine. So chunk them up into small little chunks. Fantastic. With your beetroot sliced and diced, you want to pour them straight into a large saucepan. So pour them straight in. Beetroot wine on its own is brilliant. Just the beetroot boiled up with the juice extracted is fantastic. I've made a very similar recipe, so check out afterwards if you fancy. But I have taken that recipe I've made a few years back and worked upon it and added a few extra things, a few extra ingredients that really bring out the beetroot flavour and enhance it into a completely different complex wine combination in your mouth, which is brilliant. That's what you want. You want to explore and experiment. Anyway, 3 chilies. Now the heat of the chilies depend on your personal tastes, but I find 3 mild red chilies work superbly for my resistance to heat. If you love extra heat and chilliness, add the scorchers if you like. If you aren't so keen, add less, add 1. Winemaking is your personal preference, so we want to chop up your 3 red peppers, or your however many you choose, seeds and all, and bung them straight into your saucepan. Now, into the wine, into the mix, into the saucepan, we want to be adding 500 grams of raisins. These do help add a certain amount of vinosity to the wine and that tingle on the tongue that just adds the body and depth behind the chili and the beetroot flavour. Fantastic. So pour them straight in on top of your beetroot, on top of your chili. Shove them straight in, job done. Now, the next thing we want to add is the juice and the rind of 1 lemon. So chop your lemon in half and squeeze it straight in to the pot. Now, we want to add some tannins into the mix because the beetroot and the chilies don't quite have enough tannins, I find, for the desired result. That full, perfectly balanced glass, that crunch, that crispness, that tannin-esque element in your mouth. So throw in 1 tea bag on top of everything else. When it comes to the fermentables and the sugar, I find using 1 kilogram of granulated sugar thrown in on top of everything else is perfect. So shove that straight in. And also I like to add 250 grams of demerara sugar. The depth, the nuttiness, the molasses flavour of the brown sugar really enhances the rhubarb. It's bloody beetroot it is, not rhubarb I'm making. I find the nuttiness and the molasses flavour of the brown sugar, the demerara sugar, works wonders with the beetroot flavour. It really enhances it and brings it into a world of its own. It makes such a divine, sublime drink, this does. A perfect red, rich, full-bodied, rounded, with all the elements in the taste buds and the nose that you want, and just carry on sipping. It's a great Halloween wine, this is, between Halloween and Christmas. Perfect. So make it now and be ready for next year. So pour in 250 grams of demerara or any brown sugar into the wine, into the pot. Brilliant. So now we want to pour over 4 litres of water to get that sweet sugary juice flowing into the pot and extracting all the goodness from the root veg, from the beetroots, because that's what we like here. We love sweet juices. So pour in your water, 4 litres, into your pan on top of everything else. Already the beetroot is imparting a deep blood red colour into the liquid, and the chili peppers are giving off the aroma of that bite which we love. So turn the stove on and bring it to a simmer just under a rolling boil so the beetroot can impart its fruity, divine flavour into the wine, into the juice. Fantastic, and that sugar dissolves. So turn on your stove, let it simmer 20 minutes, and then come back and I'll see you after I've had a cup of tea. Back in a moment now. Greetings, and the beetroots have been boiling away with those chili, the sugar, the lemon, the raisins and the tea bag for about 20 minutes, and the aroma coming off them is sublime. It's rich, it's earthy, it has this silky smooth, passionate ruggedness to it, and it just smells like the country cottage, as if you're baking your beetroot pie. Anyway, it is smelling divine. Go and prepare yourself a demijohn. Go sanitize it, sterilize it, give it a good deep clean. Ideally, if you can get your hands on a brown, dark demijohn, even better, because the beetroot juice will fade with natural light. So you want to keep it out of the sun, out of direct UV light, the best you can. If you don't have access to a dark coloured demijohn, you can wrap one up in newspaper or brown paper. Just use anything to keep the light off of it. You can even knit yourself a very funky demijohn cover, like a tea cosy for a demijohn. Not only does this prevent the light from penetrating through the glassware, but also keeps it snug and cosy and touched in winter. So if you can, either knit yourself one of those or buy one of those. And whilst you're still waiting for your beetroot juice to cool down, you can start extracting all the chunks of the beetroot and the chili peppers from the mix. It will help the liquid cool faster without those big chunks retaining the heat. So once your demijohn is sorted, grab yourself your colander and start scooping out. Fantastic. And as the beetroot has been boiled up for about 20 minutes, it's tender, it's soft, and it has this lovely chili bite to it, along with the sweetness from the raisins and the sugar. This does make a perfect pie. Let it cool, grab yourself a glass of wine, sit back and chill. Get that pie in the oven, and I'll see you when it's cool. Enjoy. Once your lovely blood red beetroot juice has become cool enough to put into the demijohn, which you've just prepared, you want to filter through all the liquid through a pair of tights in a shiwi or a funnel to extract all the leftover raisins and those chili seeds that you haven't yet extracted with your sieve or colander. So start pouring in the liquid through your pair of tights. Now, the 4 litres of liquid you've added, the water, plus the density of the sugar, should bring you up to the shoulders of the demijohn, which is ideal. You do not want this wine to be all the way up to the neck of the demijohn. Otherwise, when you add the yeast and it starts to have that fervid, lavacious party in there, with the yeast turning the sugar into alcohol and CO2, it will froth and foam and become a wild orgy of the yeast multiplying and go everywhere, make a right mess in your house as it erupts through your airlock. So bring it up to the shoulder level if it's not there already, but it should be spot on in the shoulder level. And now we want to add that wonderful magical ingredient, the yeast. I am going to be using a rhubarb wine yeast. Yes, rhubarb wine yeast, not beetroot wine yeast. I haven't found beetroot wine yeast, but rhubarb, I think, goes really well with this because it helps preserve the colour. Rhubarb gives you a pinkish white wine, whereas this is a dark red wine. So you could use a burgundy wine yeast, or I like rhubarb, because it still brings out that fruitiness and the texture on your taste buds of the yeastiness. Just plays with a subtle fruity flavour of the beetroot wine. I'm just going to sprinkle in my rhubarb wine yeast into the demijohn. It should be cool enough now, it should be just right, blood temperature. Should be the temperature of milk coming out of an udder or a breast. It should not be cold and it should be not too warm. It should be ideal blood temperature or milk temperature, as they used to say in the olden days. And if you ever want to check that, go find a cow, squeeze the teat, and that should be the temperature of your wine. So sprinkle in your wine yeast and insert a clean airlock and set the demijohn aside for a few days in a lovely warm place so that the yeast can take hold and start doing its thing and become more frothy and energetic and lively and vigorous. You love a vigorous yeast, you do. With Cross My Loaf, you do not need to add yeast nutrients. However, if you're using a general purpose wine yeast, you may wish to add nutrients at this stage just to give the yeast the boost of the nitrogen and the B1 and the ingredients, nutrients, vitamins they need to get going and be brilliant. So after about 5 or 6 days of the wine becoming lively and vigorous and the yeast doing its thing, top it up to the neck and then set it aside and ferment till dry. Then mature this wine for about 6 months to a year. It'll be perfect next autumn. And whilst you're maturing the wine, why don't you check out this video up by here for some more unusual, weird, wonderful wines. So until my next video, you have fun now and I'll see you soon.